Hey friends, so welcome to DBC Live. We have Andrew Easton in the house. Welcome, Andrew.
Hey, thanks, Tara. I'm excited to be here this evening and get a chance to chat and just catch up a little bit too.
Well, we are so excited to have you on the show. And I know that we've planned for you to come on the show multiple times, and we keep waiting on this special project that's coming out soon. But we'll just have you on the show again after that. But for now, I thought we could dive in. And of course, anyone who's joining us, I see we have some viewers. As you join, please do tell us who you are, where you're from. Hey, Kristen, I always expect you to be my first one. And Dave coming in second. We just tell us who you are, what you're doing. If you're on summer break, tell us something fun that you've done recently, and we'll kind of join in too. And then we'll dive into some content a little bit later. But Andrew, as they are telling us who they are, what they do, what's something fun they've done, maybe you can now start and tell us a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, and then tell us something that you've done so far in the summer that you really enjoyed.
Yeah, well, I have the good fortune as I kind of say my 9 to 5 to work in the state of Nebraska as a digital learning coordinator for the 17 service agencies that are across our state. And so I get a chance to talk with and collaborate across just a number of different groups and people with professional development and tech integration specialists. And that's such a joy. I get to host the Good Life EDU podcast as a part of that. And it's something that's so fun. I know you've been on the pod before. Lainey Rao actually was just on recently, another DBC author. And so, always having great conversations in that space. And then I've been really fortunate that there was a season where I was in the classroom and then also working kind of full-time in support in a district with personalized learning and getting a chance to support teachers K-12 in that. And it's really just grown. And I've had an opportunity then to go and work with schools outside of our state and just really grow that work. And then write on that topic for DBC Inc. So it's been a lot of fun and a process that, at least with the writing piece, it started ahead of the pandemic back in obviously March 2020, but really excited now as it's getting into the home stretch with things.
Yeah, so much excitement. Just so many things. You do so many things, but one is the personalized learning book that's coming soon. So if you are looking to take your personalized learning to the next level, I love this book. I love the cover. You guys are going to really love it. And it's coming really soon. It's not yet. It's not our very next one, but it's coming really soon. And I see this big battle over here. Andrew, you're my witness. Whose name is first over there on the chat?
Well, Kristen got it.
Kristen Daly. Yeah, Kristen. So Dave, sorry. You're number 2, dude. Sorry. There's a little war over here. But
number 2 in the chat, number 1 in our hearts, Dave. There you go.
On our screen. You're still number 1 to a lot of us. Okay. All right. We're moving on. So much fun. Yeah, Kristen's usually our first comment each Thursday night. She is so faithful to always be here. And so we always have this, like, if she's not the first comment, we were like, whoa, who beat her? Super excited to see Marie. It looks like Stacy's going to be headed to the Florida Keys. Please pack me in your suitcase. I would love that. Dave was just in Florida. I spoke to some Tampa teachers recently. That was fun. Unfortunately, it was virtual. Otherwise, you would have seen a lot of stories of me by a beach because Kansas. Andrew gets this. He lives in Nebraska. So we're so inland that anytime I'm around water, I'm going to be sharing that. Welcome, Jay. Good to see you. Good to see you. So many good people, so many great people in the house. Lisa, Marie, good to see you too. So as we are getting started and you guys are introducing yourself, remember that every comment over in the comment section enters you to win a free book. And since Andrew's book isn't out yet, the good news for you is you get to choose from our entire bookstore. You get to choose 3. Sorry, we have a little squeaker in the house. You get to choose 3 books that are your top 3 choices, and whichever one we have in stock, we'll send to you for free. So that's your Amen corner. fire up your fingers, get with it, because as we're talking, please do add anything you want over there. Dave is literally sending me text pictures that his name is first. So Dave, you're number one. We're just going to declare it. But on our screen, you're number 2. Just saying. You can jump in if you want. But we still love you. And yes, he loves to help me understand a little bit better. So thank you, Lisa. We appreciate all of your support, of course. And as we are joining in, Andrew also shares an interest of mine. First of all, he's my bud. We go way back to the iMOOC. Didn't we meet in the iMOOC?
Yeah.
Yeah. So George Kurose ran this iMOOC for Innovators Mindset I think it was when it first came out. Or not
Yeah.
And then we met in there, and you're like, wait, you went to KU and I lived in Lawrence. You're like, I'm going to be there in it wasn't very long.
No, like later that week.
Yeah. I'm like, well, let's meet up. It was like so fun because you get to meet your PLN like in real life. And we hung out at the Lawrence Library and just talked all things education. I learned a bunch of apps, and you taught me all kinds of stuff. I taught you stuff. It was fun. So, Andrew and I go way back to the iMOOC 5 years ago. Super fun. But now he's a CrossFitter, so you guys better watch out. We could turn this conversation.
Yeah, I make it a couple days a week, and it's been a really healthy challenge. And that's something actually you and I spoke about last summer. And I referenced our podcast conversation not too long ago to someone that sometimes in the summer, the best professional development is just pushing yourself in some new area, and having to be a learner again. And so, yeah, that always pushes me, that CrossFit piece. That's for sure.
For sure. I've told these guys multiple times, you have to develop a beginner's mindset. Like, you literally can't go in there thinking you're going to study your way to the top, because there's no top and you're never going to get there. But Andrew, I would love for you just to share with our educators. This is summertime, so maybe it's a strategy you want to share, something you plan to do when you go back to school. Maybe it's something coming out in your book, something that they can think on, or maybe it's just something, teachers need to do in the summer to like regroup and, rejuvenate themselves so they're ready to rock in the fall. So it's a free floor. You just share whatever's on your heart.
Let me try to follow some of that then. So I guess I would start off by saying one, absolutely. During the summer, I love trying new things, getting a new perspective from different experiences, and would recommend that teachers take their time away and get the opportunity to unplug, have some conversations like this if it is energizing to you to be a part of this, and to learn, grab a book, right, and just do that at your own pace and with what you're comfortable with. And then as the school year draws in, it's always easiest, I feel like, to get a sense of where you would like to go before you get into the rhythms of it, right? Because there's always going to be another stack of papers that's due, or a lesson that you need to prepare, or a meeting that you have to attend. And so the more that you can get your mind around that one thing that's really just going to fill your bucket and move your practices forward and reach your students in a way that you want to go next, right? Like that art of teaching as it evolves. Finding that to begin the school year is important. And so to get to your question there, Tara, about, what's maybe a practical thing that one of the biggest takeaways I hope that people have as they get to the book when it is out, is this idea that so often we are looking to empower our learners, right? We want to make sure that they have choices, they can lead their own learning. We put them in the center. And sometimes it doesn't always go very well. There's about maybe 10 or 15% of the students who take and run with it, and they do amazing things, and you have awesome examples. And the other, 85% look at you and go, what am I supposed to do with this? Can you help me with this? I don't know what. And then it's can be some chaos at that point in time. And I've kind of found myself going into a lot of districts where it was that type of initiative was in place. And then if we kind of came in and around that and said, we need to back up, we need to start ahead of that choice and think about scaffolding. How can we teach learners about those choices before they're presented to the students? And so if I have to do kind of a practical takeaway, right, I would say that just anytime you're going to offer choice in your classroom, think about how can I, a couple weeks ahead of time, give students experiences that they need to be able to gain the sensibility about how it plays into their strengths, preferences, interests, or needs, And then with that experience, they can make intentional decisions and actually be successful with those opportunities. So if we have to go even more practical than that, let's talk. I mean, we book snaps in here too, Tara, which I know is always a fave of yours. But so if you take something like annotations, for example, if you're going to ask your students to annotate and you're getting into a new novel, for example, or you could even be your textbook. Maybe the first time out you ask them to use the Post-it notes and everything looks like some sort of failed Thanksgiving turkey project as all these little colors stick out the side. That was always a little chaotic for me, but I know some people absolutely love it. And others like kind of having that digital graphic organizer where they can go in there, and because maybe their handwriting's bad and they have a tendency to lose their papers, they can log their annotations in that space and try that out a little bit. Maybe book snaps on for chapter 3. And as you ask students to kind of pivot from one to the next, there can come a point where you say, which one of these is really working for you and why? And making space for them to talk about that. And that's just one microcosm of all the places you could add choice and be intentional in your scaffolding for it ahead of time.
I really love that. I love so much about what you talked about. And I appreciate too, and I think Andrew truly lives this, because I've actually been on his podcast. I've got to see some action in your district even, which was so cool. And being able to, like he said, not just, sometimes we just give a bunch of choices. And I think this is where it can get confusing. And y'all, I'm so sorry. I've been wrestling my dog down here. She's 4 months old. She's coming alive right now. So if you see me reaching down here, just know, just trying to take care of that. But I feel like with choice, a lot of times we feel like we're giving the kids a lot of choices, and we do give kids a lot of choices sometimes. Sometimes it's a big, long menu, but then it gets to be overwhelming. And I kind of liken it to, when I don't know. Sometimes I liken it to this. Like, this may not make sense, but the Olive Garden menu, no, it's not.
Oh, you're trying to go cheesecake.
It's the Cheesecake Factory menu. The Cheesecake Factory menu is so overwhelming. And there's probably a ton of things on there that I like, but I always just order the same exact thing because I cannot focus long enough to read all of those choices. It's way too many. And I think sometimes with children, I think we do that. We're giving them a lot of choices, but then, like you said, we're not really front loading what each one of those choices looks like, sounds like, feels like. And then are we really coming back and asking them, hey, out of these 3, which one seems to be working well for you? Oh, none of them? Well, let's try a different one. Rather than giving them so many. And I think you talked about this before. I've heard you just kind of nail in on this before. So maybe there might be some teachers out there that are like, I'm giving a lot of choices and they're still not doing it. But are we giving them too many? And are we really showing them what each one of those looks like, sounds like, feels like, and then circling back and seeing which one they like, which one kind of works for them?
Yeah, that's where, we kind of in the book talk about putting your own spin on it. And that's playing to your strengths, to your preferences, to your interests, and to your needs. As a learner, you should be able to articulate that. And you're going to have those come up in different situations. And the learner needs to develop the ability to understand which of those levers they're pulling on, right? And the simplest way to say it would be to say, if you're learning to play basketball, you have to play left-handed. If you just go right every time, you get amazing right. Eventually, you're going to have to go left. So sometimes you're going to have to work on your needs. Sometimes your interest is great to pursue, particularly if it's aligned with your strength. But you could do a deep dive on something you're absolutely passionate about, but really struggle with that. And if that's the case, then you need to sort of acknowledge it, that this is an interest needs moment. And so there's a lot of nuance to those conversations. And as long as the learners are being intentional, and like you said, and it's so tough because people go, I am doing choice. I love that we're doing choice. That is the opportunity for students to own the learning. Yeah. But if they don't understand how to do that when they get there, and if there aren't, you can have, like you're saying, 8 different choices. If you haven't sampled everything on the menu, you might not be able to select the one that's best for you in that moment or moving forward, if that's kind of going to be your go-to thereafter. So
no,
I get really fired up about this stuff, Tara.
I know, it's a great topic. And it's for anyone, right? This isn't just for our learners that are in the elementary, middle, or high school classroom. This is for our adult learners too. Like everyone has something that works well for them, but when we always try to make them do it a certain way, which I feel like a lot of teachers have moved away from that. And then, like you said, we've moved to this opportunity where children can choose, but then we get frustrated when they don't choose, and they're frustrated because there's too many choices or they don't understand the choices. So kind of we're in the right direction. And I think that's where your book is really going to help us to like take it to make it way more meaningful and more productive, like in the classroom or in the learning setting, whatever that is, wherever that is, for whatever learners there are. I think it works. It works for everyone. And I see a lot of you over here talking about modeling. I love that. Lisa said model, model, model. And then Stephen, no worries, you're late. We're always happy you're here. So anytime you can join in, even if you have to watch it on the playback, we understand that for sure. Instructing choices should probably help expose our students to choice. Yeah, here we go. Sometimes you just don't know if a choice works unless you're exposed to it. Exactly. And I think that's where sometimes, just introducing, like with the classroom, sometimes with students, I will say, okay, we're going to learn a new thing, a new choice today. Everybody's going to do it. You may not like it. It's okay. We're just going to put it up on our choice board. And if you choose it next time, you can. But if you rather do one of the other ones we've already learned, feel free to do that one. We're just going to all learn together this one because you may like it. You never know until you try it. It's kind of like food, right? When your parents are like, you just got to try it. And you got to try it every year and see if you like it. I still don't like watermelon. I've tried it every single year and I still never like it. It smells so delicious. But, that's how it is with choices in the classroom too. Maybe it looks fun and all the rest of the kids are loving it, but it just doesn't work for me. And it doesn't help me to solidify that knowledge in my head so I can bring it out when I need it later. So.
Well, and kind of two pieces to build off of that as well would be one to say that it's not choice for the sake of choice and it's not choice for the sake of engagement. It's choice to give them the opportunity to find the strategy or the avenue or the resource like medium that works best for them, right? And so kind of start from that place, then you go, okay, well, I need to teach or expose them to these so they can arrive at a conclusion ahead of the decision, which is the choice itself. But yet it takes some the intentionality, which is why right now is a great time for that. Right. And if anyone is asking, well, then how is that personalized learning, right? Because we're really nailing this down pretty tight to one particular choice example. And what's been so rewarding as I've had the opportunity to support buildings and districts with this work is once you kind of figure out how that works in one aspect of your instruction in one unit and one, part of, if you're an elementary teacher, right, maybe it makes so much sense to you in social studies or math or wherever it is, then you start to broaden that out and extend that to other places. And so now my students maybe understand the best way that they know how to annotate, and they also know how to demonstrate their learning, through whatever they create, call it a product, right? And then maybe after that, we get into, well, what medium do you learn best through? Is it video? Is it direct instruction? What are the benefits of each? And over time, they learn what they need to be successful. And then they start to really seek those things out. And that's where it flips. And there's a moment, and it takes a little bit of iteration to get there, but it's really fun to watch how that spirals up.
Yeah. And I think, I bet people maybe watching this on the playback could be wondering, okay, so how do we make time to introduce all these choices? And then how do you manage all that when everybody's taking a different route to get to the end product I always think of it to like solidify the knowledge. That's what I used to tell the kids, like if they were super stoked about, for example, book snaps. So maybe they really like making book snaps, but they truly were just better if they could just read straight through. I had some really avid readers that stopping to make a book snap was slowing down the process. It didn't really help them because they didn't need that anchor to like hold them to that content. They didn't need that to like put that information from the working memory to long-term memory, if you will. But if they just read straight through, they could tell me every single thing about that book because that's the kind of reader they were. Now, the rest of my class needed some anchors. They needed something to kind of draw them in the middle, draw them in at the end. And then when I asked them how the book was, they would always tell me stuff that happened around the book snap. But there were kids where that was fun, but it didn't help them solidify the knowledge. It didn't really take their learning to the next level. And that's what I used to try to, it's hard to tell middle schoolers this, but, trying to help them understand, okay, does this strategy really help you to get to learn better, to remember the content that we're trying to study right now? And so maybe you can just brush. I mean, we're not here all night, but how would you, one, get started? Do you have kind of a game plan for introducing choices and then maybe managing them and making sure, like you said, interviewing the students? How do you, maybe what's one strategy you use to do that, to make sure that you touch base? And say you teach middle school, so you taught high school, so you teach a lot of students. How do you make sure that happens for everybody?
Well, as far as getting started, to begin with that question, what I have found, again, in supporting schools with this work has been just, it's great when you set the bar at one choice in the first semester and people go, wow, I mean, we might do a choice in the first week. And you go, okay, but remember what we're talking about here. We're saying this is an eventual choice that they're going to make. And we're going to go back and scaffold for each of the options ahead of time. And so to build that out and to have it, be paced and patient with it is something that everyone feels is attainable in the first, the fall semester. We'll say we're going to meet our students to start the year off, and then maybe we start to build it from there. And then having that success, then you go, okay, where else could I do this? And that's what the book gets into. Is we look at 8 different places where you could think about choice being possible really in any lesson. And so many of the teachers that I've had the chance to support and have conversations with and learn from have said, I kind of only saw choice as being choice in what I was creating, or I only saw choice as being like we're talking about in the way that we annotate. And I never considered that this is also a choice that learners make, that if they got the sense of how to do that better for themselves in my classroom, then that would translate to all future learning across, a number of different learning experiences, classrooms, grade levels, what have you. And so starting small, but continuing to grow throughout. And it does, there comes a point where you start to go, oh, this makes sense. And it only takes a few minutes to give us this kind of practice because you're going to be taking up that kind of space anyway, right? So let's go back to the previous one with annotations. We were going to annotate for chapter 1. We were going to annotate for chapter 2 and for chapter 3. We're just doing those in slightly different ways and going to teach that strategy in a few minutes right ahead of that. And you make up for that time later, right? Because now once the students have developed the ability to go, this is my strategy, this is how, and they're confident in that and it works for them and they feel seen by being able to have the opportunity to make those kind of decisions, you're going to make up for that in chapters 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, because they're in it. And so that's one practical piece. It could an easy place, I think, to conceptualize where to start would be to say maybe we get to a point where I go, okay, I'd like for you to learn from a video today. And everyone, over the last 2 years has gotten a lot better in that space. But let's talk about what it means to maybe, take notes during that. And what are the strengths of video? Well, you can watch it again. You can, access that after school if need be and that kind of thing. Whereas direct instruction, and you have these conversations as you go through each example, but like direct instruction gives you a chance to have a conversation, to ask questions in real time, and the video can't do that. And you start to equip learners with an understanding of how these different mediums can best set them up for success. So we'll do direct instruction one day, and then we'll say, okay, next day let's do video, compare and contrast. Next day, what if we read it off of a page? How is that different from the first two? You do a couple practices, and then you get to a point where you give them the different options and let them pick. And it's fun too to watch students kind of remix those and go, hey, can I come listen to the direct instruction with that notes piece in my hand? And I want the video for when I do my homework later. And you're like, that's personalized. That's you, learner driven. I always say, like, learner centered is one thing. Learner driven is entirely different. First is the opportunity. Second is the ability.
I love it. I agree. And I love the like aha moment that you really expressed there. When kids start coming up and saying, can I for example, can I watch this video again with the notes that you've already taught, with this choice that you gave me before? And now they're mixing and matching all these different things. And then they truly find like where they thrive. And Yeah, Melody's in the house. She said, love that.
Melody.
Love these ideas. Exactly. So if you love these ideas, just let me just tell you, you are going to love this book. First of all, I already said it. I already said this first of all. So this is secondly, I love the cover. It really represents to me what we're talking about in a visual, which I'm super visual. So I just think you guys are going to jump into this book and feel like it's just such a practical resource that you can keep up on your desk and refer back to it as you're planning, as you're thinking. It's not like one you're just going to read and just kind of store it up on your bookshelf and be like, okay, I have all that. It's kind of going to be one that you can go back to as you're planning and think again. Think, okay, what was he talking about? Where can I look for choice? I can look for choice here too. I didn't even think, just dissecting your planning and really just front loading, thinking way ahead of time and preparing the students for having the opportunity to not only have the choice, but like you said, they start driving the learning until the place where they already have it in their hands and they're like, hey, so I'm going to mix and match all these things. And then I'm going to truly get this because here I am. And guess what? Guess what, Mr. Easton? I did that in science class too. Not only did I learn it in your ELA class, but now I'm doing the same thing with my science teacher and she's loving it. I'm making a better grade, all those things. So super excited about this book. I know people are going to want to connect with you, and I can't believe our 30 minutes is already over. But if people want to connect with you, Andrew and I can sit here and talk forever. And we didn't bore you with CrossFit, although we could have. We decided to stay on topic tonight. You're welcome. And but they want to connect with you, Andrew. Where can they find you? And then also, where can they? Well, they'll be seeing you around when the book comes out for sure. But where can they find you for now?
Yeah, I need to beef up my social media and online presence a little bit, and so I am on Twitter at Easton A1, which is on my little handle here when it comes up. And then I'm also in the process of updating my website and adding resources and things like that that's going to come with the book, which I saw was asked. Empowered to Choose is what the title is. And so I'm really excited for when we get to a place where we're ready to launch that. And so that's going to that blog site, along with the resources and supports, will be out with that when the book comes out. And then I would say on a regular basis, though, and again, get back to my 9 to 5, but I love hosting the podcast, the Good Life EDU podcast. And I've been so grateful that we've had the opportunity to have so many great guests on and to learn each and every week from classroom practitioners to people that work at in that service agency level as professional developers or technology integrationists to national speakers. And so we've had some great chats. I mentioned Lainey a moment ago. John Spencer was on recently. Alyssa Malaspina is a really, she's a mover and shaker as a librarian. Won an award recently. And so, it's been fun. I love to just kind of dabble and learn about all the great work that people are doing across the country, around the world on behalf of education. And it's been a really great experience to be a part of all these different avenues. So thanks for the chance to chat tonight.
For sure, for sure. And Andrew, if you don't mind, we'd love for you to drop those links over in, I should have gotten them from you a little earlier, but we'd love for you to drop those links over in the chat once we're done. You can send them to me in that private chat place right there, and I'll drop them in here for everyone. But that podcast is so fun. It's good. It's short and sweet, and I feel as though it's jam-packed with good stuff that you can take away and use right away. I know a lot of you know Lainey Rowell. She just had a book come out, and that's who he was talking about earlier. There's been a lot of us on that podcast, so it's so fun. And I still see some great, Empowered to Choose is the name of the book, if you didn't hear Andrew say that earlier. And it's perfect. It's perfect for learner-driven education, which I think is what we all want to move toward. And like what Nick is sharing here as well, and love the podcast. We'll drop them in there. So I think Andrew has me some links over here. Yeah, let me grab that. I'm going to drop it for you right now. Unfortunately, he can't jump into the chat. Don't know why StreamYard makes it that way. But here is the podcast, The Good Life EDU. Definitely check that out, especially if you have some long walks or you have some things that you need to get through. This will be so helpful to make it more meaningful. And Andrew, we have building up some excitement around here about the book. So can't wait for that to come out. It'll be looking for it. It's coming really soon, but we can't give you an exact date yet. But it's really almost done. So we're right there at the end. Thank you again for joining us, Danielle. Thanks for joining us, all of you. Amy, Rochelle, I saw Melody Pocket Pin, Mark. There were several of you. I didn't get a call out your name, but trust me, I'm super grateful that you're here. And we'll be back next Thursday, same place, same time, different guest. Andrew, thank you again for joining. We're so pumped to have you as a part of the DBC family and to have your book coming out really soon.
Yeah, thanks. And one last note I would say, if anyone would like to chat further about any of this work, just send me something on Twitter and I'd be happy to reach out and connect. Love getting a chance to grow the PLN.
For sure. And he's always very approachable and reachable. So definitely take him up on that if you're more interested in the topic. So thanks, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye, everyone.